so you can get chased down.
What is up, Incline Dodger fans? Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode. We are presented by FanSided, TickPick, Underdog Fantasy. This is Kevin Klein speaking. Your Los Angeles Dodgers are going to play a World Series starting this Friday, and they have a marquee matchup against the New York Yankees. So we needed some help here. So I recruited our FanSided partners. You can listen to their podcast all season long at Yanks Go Yard. I'm joined by Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carannante. You can follow them both on X as well, and Yanks Go Yard included. How you guys doing? How you feeling? Congratulations to your Yankees winning the AL pennant. Let's do this thing.
Feeling good. Thanks for having us, man. Yeah, 15 years is a long time. I wore my 09 World Series hat on the stream yesterday to prove that it's old and gross now. That, like, hey, 15 years will make a hat look like garbage. And it really did. It's flecked. It's dirty. And we need a new one, but I'm not doing it until the series is over. So thanks for having us. We're excited. I think this is better than Guardians Mets, to be honest with you.
I'm gonna agree with that. What's up, Jake Reiner? Jake's here as well. Jake, kick it over to you. How do you want to start off this epic World Series? You've got the two evil empires. All the haters probably mad because these are two of the top payrolls in baseball. We don't get another Arizona Diamondbacks and Texas Rangers World Series. We actually get teams that people care about, and it's loaded with superstars. Ohtani versus Judge, Betts versus Soto, Yamamoto versus Garrett Cole. It's going to be an awesome World Series.
Yeah, it's certainly the World Series that I think both these fan bases have been wanting for a really long time. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of assume that all four of us are kind of around the same age. We've been waiting for a matchup like this our entire lives. I know personally I've always wanted to see Dodgers Yankees, and it hasn't happened for 43 years, the last time being 1981. So it has been a minute. And it also kind of dispels the myth out there that everyone is kind of arguing that these two franchises, all they do is they buy titles, they buy players, all of that stuff. It's all bullshit because the Yankees haven't won a World Series since 2009. They haven't appeared since that time, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. The Dodgers haven't won a full season title since 1988, even though they did win one in 2020. But the last few seasons, have been pretty depressing for both teams. The Yankees seemingly can't get past the Astros. The Dodgers seemingly couldn't get past either of their NL West opponents. And so now finally that they've gotten to the final round, we're getting to see the World Series matchup that I think everybody is going to want to watch. And I don't care what other fan bases say that they're not going to watch, they're going to boycott this World Series. It's bullshit. It's going to be one of the highest rated, if not the highest rated World Series of all time, because we're all going to tune in. Because if you're a baseball fan, this is the World Series that you want if it's not your team fighting for the title.
Yeah, I'd like to have a word with those fans, Dodger, from what I see, all anybody talks about is the Dodgers blowing it in the postseason and choking over and over again and spending all this money that goes to nothing. And the Yankees are, also over the last 15 years, postseason chokers. They've blown it against the Astros. They had an easy path to the World Series this year. So which is it, guys? I don't know. All these haters are coming out of the woodwork, and I feel like they're talking themselves in circles. And look, like, even if this was maybe, what would our most hated World Series be? Red Sox versus Padres? As much as I would despise having those two teams in there, I would watch every second of that World Series. So
I'd watch every second of it. I'd watch every second of it and root for the Padres, and Red Sox, and like Dodger fans would watch every second of it and root for the Red Sox. And that's fine. Yeah. Thank you for giving us this platform, because we just want the haters to pick a lane. Do Yankees fans have too many championships and we should appreciate the 1923 World Series? Or are we pathetic losers for not making the World Series for 15 years? Which is it? Because if we're pathetic losers, then I'm going to celebrate making the World Series. But if we have too much, then I guess I'll also I'll celebrate an older World Series. Like, I'm just not sure what you want me to do, but it's nice to be here.
All right. So appreciate everyone tuning in live. Hit that like button. If you're new to the show, hit that subscribe button. We need to know a lot about the New York Yankees. I don't get the privilege of watching them every game like I used to in the past. I focus on the Dodgers. the East Coast. It's too early for me. I'm still working, can't keep up. So kind of tell us how the Yankees got to this point. What were the keys to their success in the first 2 rounds, and kind of what do you expect for them to carry over into this World Series matchup?
Well, Adam, you could probably better articulate that because I'm still confused on how this has happened.
Thomas, I don't think accepted that we did move on until it was 3-1 with 2 outs and the 5-2 lead, 2 outs in the 9th, 1 more to get in Cleveland. I mean, it's odd, right? Because I'm not sure the Yankees played a good, clean playoff baseball game until it depends on how far you want. Game 2 of the CS. I mean, the division series, the first game was back and forth. Craziness, but the most lead switches in any playoff game in MLB history, 5 lead flips against the undermanned Kansas City Royals in the opener. And so you're like, all right, I mean, that was exciting, but am I more enthusiastic about the Yankees now than I was when the playoffs started, or when they barely snuck over 500, or maybe even were below 500 in the second half of the season? They were a house of fire entering mid-June, and then they were the worst team in baseball until they went to Fenway, stabilized things a little bit, salvage their season. But even that salvage, they were fighting to stay 500 for most of the second half. The deadline moves didn't work. Jazz Chisholm was great, then injured, then fine. Mark Leiter Jr. didn't make the playoff roster out of the bullpen. Enyel De Los Santos was DFA'd 2 weeks after being acquired and went to the White Sox. Like, that's what we were dealing with. And then they get past the Royals just barely. They win the first 2 home games against the Guardians, but the Guardians have late rallies in both, make them a little bit tighter. And everyone's talking about the Guardians bullpen. Look at the Yankees bullpen. They're relying on 3 guys. They're cooked. Clay Holmes, Luke Weaver, and Tommy Kahnle throwing 20 pitches every night. I mean, Luke Weaver appeared in every single playoff game. He threw 5 pitches in the DS game they lost, and then didn't not appear in a playoff game through the one he blew on the John Kenzie Noel home run in Game 3. So we're like, after Game 3, we're like, the Yankees have not played a clean game yet. The offense hasn't matched the pitching. They're not shaking hands, and they just blew one strike away from taking a 3-0 lead in the CS. I don't know if there's any coming back from this with the way the bullpen's been taxed. Lo and behold, they fight their way through Game 4. They use some mystery arms. Leiter Jr. shows up. Tim Hill pitched in all 5 games of the CS. I know you guys know him from his Padres days. Jake Cousins throws in games 4 and 5, and it all leads to that dramatic Soto home run. So until the moment that actually happened, I'm kind of with Thomas. I wasn't like bought in on this being a reality. Even up 2-0, got to go on the road against a team that's been doing nothing but fighting, and you're losing pitching steam day by day. I was nervous. They blow that Game 3, and you're like, all right, well then that's over. And somehow they're still here. I will just say the comments, if you're citing Luke Weaver's ERA against the Los Angeles Dodgers, I'm not sure if that's totally relevant. This is not the Luke Weaver that you are familiar with. Maybe it is. I don't know. But I think there are a lot of guys in the Yankees. If you're looking up Luke Weaver's old stats and when he was a failed Diamondback starter, I'm not sure that that's the best way to preview this matchup.
Yeah, that guy was
also
tossed around by the Dodgers in the past.
Also, I along those same lines, right, that we were talking about earlier of, it being one way or the other, right? You're either satisfied with the championships that you have, or you're excited to be in the World Series. It's like you can't please everybody. There are a lot of other comments out there that I kind of would like to hear you guys address. Maybe we'll kick it over to Tommy for this one.
Sure.
That say that this was an easy path to the World Series for the Yankees, that they got to go through the Royals and the Guardians. They did not have to face the Astros, which has been their kind of kryptonite. So I guess my question is not so much, do you believe it was an easy path, but do you believe that the Yankees kind of may have played down a little bit to their competition and didn't, kind of meet the expectations that you guys were envisioning? I mean, because in all, if you look at those matchups, you would think, oh, it should have been a cakewalk, but it wasn't really. I mean, it was a dogfight, especially against the Guardians with the way that they fought back in those games with the John Kenzie Noel home run and all that. So how do you feel about your team in the playoffs right now? And what do you say to the people that say this was kind of a cakewalk to the World Series?
Yeah, look, like there is a part of me that wishes we went through the Astros just for revenge sake. There is a part of me that wishes maybe we crossed paths with the Red Sox and got the best of them. Higher competition, bigger payrolls, things like that. Guardians are mid-market team that has good talent, but no really giant star names outside of Jose Ramirez. Royals lost 106 games last year, but ended up having one of the best pitching staffs and most talented players in baseball. But then again, there is no easy road in the playoffs, as you guys know. You guys have been through plenty of DS troubles with upstart teams that aren't playoff regulars, and you've lost to them. And we've been in the same situation too in the past. So again, it comes back to the championship argument, right? It's like, okay, so what happens if we don't get through this path? Then we're choke artists and losers, and we don't deserve to be anywhere beyond the first round of the playoffs. And all the money we're spending on payroll is an absolute waste. The Yankees are, a giant landfill. They suck. We hate them. And then you finally get through them, and it's like, oh, well, of course you got to the World Series. You had to face the Royals and the Guardians. And look at the reality of both of these teams. Like Adam and I discussed this, and we thought it was funny. And this is not taking anything away from the Detroit Tigers, because we thought that was one of the most fun teams to watch this year, and their turnaround in mid-August was amazing. But what if you put the Oakland A's in the wild card series on the road against the Astros, see what happens, throw their two best pitchers? Like, that could be a sweep. The A's catch them on a wrong day, and it's just how baseball works, man. Like we've seen the crazier outcomes in the early round of the playoffs ever since the postseason has gotten expanded. Crazier stuff has happened every single year. You have random bullpen stalwarts emerge out of nowhere after having 5.6 ERAs all year. You have number 8 hitters start delivering the most clutch hits you've ever seen in your life. So I think that there is no easy road in the playoffs. Then again, part of me does wish there was one opponent that we really could have stuck it to. But to your other point about the Yankees playing down to their competition, that is what they famously do. So I think they made maybe both of these series look a little bit more difficult than they should have. Then again, I don't think anybody was predicting a clean 3-0, 4-0 sweep in both of those series against those teams, given the talent, despite, not too much name recognition. But all year, what we complained about in terms of the Yankees' flaws was them playing down to lesser teams, and then them not being able to go on winning streaks because of that, them not being able to secure series sweeps because of that. They essentially played barely above 500 baseball since I think you guys came to Yankee Stadium. After that point, I think they were literally 4 games over 500 for the remainder of the year. So thank God we're playing you guys, because you guys are just above, you guys are at our competition or above it. So I really believe this is going to be a battle of heavyweights, and it's going to be a pleasure for everybody to watch.
Well, it's also like, it's a ridiculous take too of like you can't choose who you play in the playoffs. You really can't. So it's you either go through the competition that you have to get through to get to the World Series, or you get eliminated. And it's like, okay, so you guys didn't play the Astros. Well, the Astros didn't beat the freaking Detroit Tigers. So, I mean,
where were the Orioles? Lost to the
Orioles. Yeah, the Orioles are the team that loves to say, like, oh, the Yankees got out of the DS because they didn't face us. The Royals and 3 of the top 10 starters in baseball went to your house, and you did nothing. Absolutely nothing. So you could have been here. We could have seen this AL East battle for the ages, but you didn't show up against the pitching staff that we beat. So it's the Bill Simmons argument, right? I don't know if anybody listened to the Simmons podcast yesterday, but he was like, my favorite line maybe I've ever heard from somebody grasping at straws was, he said, Emmanuel Clase is Cleveland's best pitcher, and all of a sudden he couldn't get people out for some reason. Oh, some reason? The Yankees kicked his ass 3 times. That's why. Couldn't get people out for some reason. The reason may have been the opponent. So Bill Simmons and his Red Sox, who got to play, by the way, the barely a playoff team Colorado Rockies in the 2007 World Series. I'm pretty sure he still counts that one.
Yeah, right.
So when I look at both the Dodgers and Yankees plate approach, it seems like they're pretty similar in terms of their plate discipline and ability to get on base so far in this postseason. The Yankees were able to work 49 walks in 9 games. The Dodgers 55 walks in 11 games. So you guys obviously saw the games firsthand. How good were they in terms of not swinging out of the zone? And for us Dodgers, kind of what do you think would be the key for our pitchers to attack them?
No, the one big issue there was that you mentioned all that traffic on the bases, right? I think the biggest difference is that you guys cashed in on those runs and we didn't. Uh, through, I think it was the first 6 playoff games, they averaged just barely over 4 runs a game, and they were averaging almost 7 walks a game. So it comes down to the situational hitting, the hitters with runners in scoring position. But you look at, I think the Yankees plate discipline, this is where they shine. The bigger moments when every pitch matters, their plate discipline does level up. And I think we've seen that mostly with Giancarlo Stanton, who is every hater's favorite meme too. Like, they'll just clip pictures of him swinging at sliders in the other batter's box and, random game 65 in June or May. And then come playoff time, he's dialed in, he's waiting for his pitch, and he's winning ALCS MVP by hitting 4 home runs. So, for the most part, they've limited the strikeouts with the exception of Aaron Judge, who's still whiffing quite a bit. But the lineup top to bottom has been, second to your guys' lineup in terms of relentlessness. Like, though they're not cashing in, they're putting a ton of guys on base, and they have gotten the clutch hits when they've needed to. But then again, I don't know, I am worried about your guys' bullpen games, because I think that when they're faced with seeing too many different pitchers that have heavy stuff, it becomes a bit of a problem. But Adam, I don't know what else you saw in those last few games, but I think that they did a good job of commanding the zone.
Yeah, I thought that obviously the Cleveland Guardians had these 4 horsemen, and so their goal was, hey, let's not let these Yankees big sluggers see the same pitcher multiple times. And you're like, well, that's terrifying, and I guess that could work. And then it just sort of didn't work. Like, they got a little creaky by the end of that series, and you've got a guy like Hunter Gaddis. They got basically everybody. They didn't get Tim Herron, but Hunter Gaddis, Judge, and Soto both got him. He was down a little bit in velocity in Game 5. Cade Smith came in the zone of Stanton when he shouldn't have, and Stanton got him. And obviously Clase, they got twice, and they got him running back to his locker and flexing his all-star ring.
That was the stupidest thing.
Yeah, good job, man. Congrats on those all-star rings. Hey, there was a team award, by the way, or no? I'm not sure. But, a couple guys to watch out for. Gleyber Torres has been on base at a torrid pace this offseason. This postseason. This offseason, he'll probably be on a different team. But he's been he and Soto got on base to start the first 6 games of the postseason, which I'm not sure I've seen that in my life. Now, the Yankees, to Thomas's point, scored 2 runs in the first inning of those games. Judge hit a pop-up that was dropped by Brian Rocchio for one of them, and Soto knocked in Torres in Game 4 of the DS. So Judge didn't knock in anybody with a hit in those 6 games in which the first 2 batters reached base in every single game. So they're going to need a more productive Aaron Judge in the first inning if they're going to be able to jump on the Dodgers. And Anthony Volpe is another guy who has walked 8 times through 9 postseason games, and also just so happens to be hitting .310 this postseason with an 804 OPS. He has been up and down. He had an amazing April, and then it's not even fair to call it a bad stretch because it was basically May, June, July, August. Like it was long enough to turn you off of his potential on the whole. And he entered this postseason. Thomas and I were going off on him because it felt like he was looking for walks. Like, he's trying to figure out, okay, what can I do? How can I establish myself at the bottom of this lineup? There were a lot of passive ABs. But then eventually, weirdly, got a couple of hits to fall, and those passive at-bats started looking more like he was baiting the pitcher into throwing. Like, he ended up actually taking walks once he stopped looking for walks. So the question is, World Series stage, do we get the patient Volpe from the CS that was kind of a menace and a pest? Or do we get the one from the start of the DS that was like, I'm hoping Michael Wacha walks me, and if he doesn't, then I'm walking back to the dugout without having swung?
I think one of the big factors in this series is going to be the first inning, because for both lineups, they're going to be facing basically the heart of the order, the best hitters on either team. And what we saw for the Dodgers throughout the playoffs, especially in that Padres series, was that the Padres were scoring first because they were the away team in those first 2 games. And it then became an uphill climb for the Dodgers they won Game 1 and then they lost Game 2. So you're talking about Torres and Soto getting on base. Now we know Soto gets on base at a torrid clip, but Gleyber Torres is going to be another factor. And you get those two guys on base with Judge and Stanton behind them. It is going to be a headache for this Dodgers pitching staff to keep the Yankees off the board, especially in these first 2 games, and then come to the plate with a 0-0 tie. That is going to be a huge thing. And then for the Yankees side, if they don't score in the first inning, or even if they do, keeping the Dodgers off the board in the first inning is going to be a Herculean task. And I think that is a key that I'm looking for throughout this series, is that the games could be won and lost in the first inning. And so that's something I'm looking for.
Yeah, the numbers within the numbers there are like as good as Torres has been with getting on base, and as obviously as amazing as Juan Soto is. They are not threats on the base paths at all. You probably saw that in I think game 4 when Soto hit that ball into the gap and they waved Torres home from first base, and he started looking at the ball in the outfield, and then he got thrown. It was a perfect relay. If he just puts his head down and he goes and slides, he's probably in, but this team makes a lot of mistakes on the base paths. You look at Torres, Soto, Judge, Stanton as your top 4. No one's really stealing a base there. No one's taking the extra base. No one's scoring.
Stanton stole one in the DF. So yeah, you guys got to watch out for old wheels Giancarlo, as Bob.
The afterburners.
As Bob Costas likes to call him. Yeah.
Stanton is like Rajon Rondo. He can have the most pedestrian regular season, and then once the playoffs roll around, this guy will step up. And I feel like every time Stanton's in the playoffs, he has at least a couple big home runs, and obviously went off in the championship series for you guys, winning the ALCS MVP. So I think one of the keys for the Dodgers is obviously they're going to have to get through Soto and Judge. Not giving a walk to either of those guys, I think, is going to be kind of pay big dividends to avoid getting these guys on the base paths, because Stanton could be the guy that kills them. And I feel like for the Dodgers, you can live with a solo home run to Giancarlo Stanton, but if it's a 2 or 3 run home run, that might be almost insurmountable depending on who's on the mound for the Yankees.
Yeah, we've questioned, like, for as good as the Guardians bullpen is, not sure why they were giving Giancarlo Stanton that many looks. We were very confused when Stephen Vogt left in Tanner Bybee for that last at bat in game 5. And I know that he had confidence in his pitcher to execute his mix and potentially steal this one last batter, but that's playing with fire. And I know you guys have a lot of different pitchers you're going to be able to throw at us, a lot of high leverage arms that have a lot of postseason experience, and a lot of you guys have gone through 2 of the best offenses in the league since the second half. Padres were the hottest team in the second half. Mets were the hottest team since June. And they've both been wagons all year. So I don't think this is much of a different task for you. It's, if anything, it's more of an uphill challenge for the Yankees on this. You flip it with the Yankees pitching staff being able to neutralize your guys' relentless lineup. They had a lot of experience playing those lineups in the regular season, but again, didn't have that gauntlet of a path in the postseason and ran into a good amount of inexperienced players on these rosters. So I think the bigger factor will be like Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole's an underdog in game 1. And I think that says a lot. I think, if he doesn't get off to the start that he needs to, if his stuff is not there, it's going to be a long night. And again, this Yankees bullpen is tired. I know they get some days off now in between, but yeah. And
you got a lot of guys that are California guys on the Yankees coming home. So they're Cole and Stanton and Judge. I mean, these guys, they love playing in California. So it'll be like a homecoming for them. I'm as a Dodgers fan, I'm so worried about that first inning, because I feel like if they can put a 0 up on the board, I'm feeling confident going into the bottom half of that inning, knowing that we have a shot to take the lead. And if you looked at the NLCS, there was only one game that had a lead change, which was the final game in game 6. Every other game, whichever team took the lead first was going to win that game. And I feel like you see that a lot in the postseason. And so that to me is going to be a key factor for sure.
How many leads did we blow, Adam?
That's a good question. I mean, look, there is watching playoff baseball with anxiety is a dangerous combination. And I'm with you. Like, I borderline only pay attention to the innings when I'm really at that heightened level, where my team is on the mound. Like if we can
Yes,
escape,
absolutely.
if we can escape innings without allowing runs, I'm like, ooh, okay, great. I get to take the bottom half off, or like with the bad.
That's
half.
that's actually when I sit down.
Yep.
I'm standing during when my team is pitching. I'm standing and pacing, and once we're out of that, oh, all right, I can sit down and I'll only stand back up if like we've got a couple runners on. But to me, it's so relaxing sitting down, knowing that your team's coming up to bat.
Oh, I mean, there's nothing worse too than getting stuck standing up when you score, because then you can't sit down.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't.
Remainder of the game. So yeah, it blows.
Obviously, people are excited about this World Series because one of our partners, TickPick, is showing right now that the lowest ticket price to get in for Game 1 of the World Series is $1,119. This is up there with the Chicago Cubs 2016 World Series as the most expensive World Series to get into. So I'm excited. I think the ratings are going to be off the charts. Dodger Stadium and Yankee Stadium are going to be rocking. Want to hear if you guys have any predictions of what stars out in New York you expect to be in the crowd. But just wanted to remind people, if you're looking to go to one of these World Series games, make sure to look over at TickPick. Download the TickPick app right now, where there's no service fees, no hidden fees, 100% buyer trust guarantee, and it's a really easy app to navigate. Best ticket prices out there on the market right now. These scalpers are going crazy, but look no further than to check out TickPick if you're trying to go to one of these World Series games.
Yeah, 1,100. I mean, I'm at this point, I'm considering going on TickPick and then also looking at flights to Dodger Stadium, because it's 1,700 get in at Yankee Stadium. I'm thinking about like maybe my dad and I dress up like service workers. Like, I don't know how else to get into Game 4, but I will definitely check it out, because right now it's been a nightmare. I want to see some 09 throwbacks. I want to see Kate Hudson in the crowd. She was dating A-Rod in 2009. She was at most of those games.
Oh my God, I totally forgot about that.
Oh yeah, Spike Lee was just at all the Liberty finals, and shout out to the Liberty for beating the Lynx. Shout out to the refs as well.
Did you guys know that Anne Hathaway was a Yankees fan? I did not know this.
Yeah, she's
Not
from
at all.
She's from Milburn, New Jersey. Yeah,
It's an amazing video too. I want to congratulate Anne, who said it was the bottom of the ninth she was watching. If that's the case, then she was cheering on a tie game. They took the lead in the 10th, but it's a great Anne video, and I want to give her credit for being a true fan.
Should we expect Jake's friend Billy Crystal to be in the house?
Oh, absolutely, he'll be there.
Is he going to throw out? He'll probably throw out a first pitch.
he has to.
He'll be there. There's no way he's missing it.
Who the Yankees need to invite for one of the first pitches has to be Hideki Matsui. If they don't do that, they got it wrong.
Oh, I mean, they'll get it wrong. Don't worry. They ruin the vibes. They'll ruin the vibes at every turn. I mean, I don't even. CC threw out one of the pitches during the CS, right?
CC I think had Game 1. I was at Game 2 of the division series. Don't worry, everybody. It's the only playoff game at home the Yankees have lost so far this year, and we had Willie Randolph. So yeah, I expect the Yankees to be like, ladies and gentlemen, for Game 3, a Japanese Yankees legend, Keiagawa, and everyone's like, oh, the guy. Fine. Yeah, I don't know. They've cycled through Randolph and CC. Reggie Jackson is now like a certified Astro. So, like, I've seen him throw out the first pitch before. I don't think he's legally allowed back in the building. But yeah, it's gonna be exciting either way.
Very cool.
Well,
right.
we've seen.
Go ahead,
I mean, we've seen kind of a long list of celebs at Dodger Stadium. The Bryan Cranstons, the Jason Batemans of the world. We saw Brad Pitt out there. I didn't know he was a Dodgers fan. That was pretty cool. We saw him a few times.
I don't think that's legitimate.
I know this is an iconic Dodgers
Tom Hanks
thing. It did make me really laugh when I think it was the Fox broadcast for, I think it was Game 2. They were like, a lot of stars at the stadium for Dodgers Mets, and they started with Mary Hart. And I was like, guys, I mean, like, Dodger Stadium legend, yes, Mary Hart, but I do think you're going to need to give the current viewers a primer on why she
it's not like you're cutting to like Jack Nicholson, right? To start it off. Like, this is Mary Hart. Yes, she does sit behind home plate every single game, so you got to show her love. But top billing, I don't think so.
That was the only issue. There's just the order of operation.
Yes, I'm with you.
I want to make sure I extend the offer to the chat because there's a lot of people tuning in right now. If you guys have any questions for any of us, Dodgers, Yankees, World Series, anything, feel free to drop them below in the chat and we'll get to your guys' questions if they're not stupid. But okay. Next thing I wanted to cover, though, guys. So we're going to go around the diamond and kind of give our X factor or who you think will be the World Series MVP. So why don't I just start with Adam, and then I'll go to Jake, then Tommy, then I'll close that one out.
World Series MVP, I think Hideki Matsui's got it locked. Yeah. X Factor, I know I'm probably, I think reasonable X Factor, Anthony Volpe based on the progress that he showed last round, but unconventional X Factor. If Oswaldo Cabrera gets in the game, he could have a big moment. He's extremely versatile. He was the star of the Yankees season opening series in Houston and put up incredible April numbers, receded for most of the summer, lost his starting role. He was the starting first baseman without Anthony Rizzo in the DS for a couple games. They put him back on the bench in the wine cellar because they like using him as a late inning replacement because he can play left, he can play second, short, first, what have you. I think if he comes into the game in the 7th inning late and gets a big AB, watch out for him. MVP pick. I think if the Yankees win the series, it'll be because Garrett Cole had a huge game 1 and 5. And I think he's my most likely MVP if the Yankees do win this World Series.
I think if the Dodgers win this World Series, this is not a hot take at all, but I truly believe it's going to be Shohei Ohtani. I think that he lives for these moments. He wants a championship. This is his first postseason, skyrocketed right to the World Series. I think that, with his mentality and the way he goes about his business, he's going to want to win this one. So he's going to be putting up pretty big numbers. So I'm not too worried about what he's going to do here, because we've seen it throughout the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. The X factor for me is, I think, twofold. One, we saw Mookie Betts kind of break out of his postseason slump shell in these playoffs. And I think that's a huge reason why the Dodgers are in the World Series right now, because they're going to be pitching around Ohtani all day long. And if Betts is coming up with runners on base, which he did so well during the regular season, he was one of the top hitters in Major League Baseball with runners in scoring position. That is going to be an X factor to see if he can come through. But I think maybe even more important than him is someone like Will Smith. I think that Will Smith has had a horrific second half. He typically has down second halves over the course of his short career so far. And he has been very bad this postseason. They've moved him down in the order. Again, he had a home run in Game 6, which was huge, I think, for him. But Will Smith tends to come up a lot with runners on base. So for me, that's going to be my X factor. I'm hoping that he can have a big series.
Ooh, yeah. I Will Smith, when he homered, what game was that he homered in? I was
Game 6.
Yeah,
that looked a little juiced bally like 2019. I was like, how did that one get out? But
I know, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. No, when he homered, I was like, damn, if this guy catches fire right before the World Series, that's going to be a friggin' killer. I'll go obvious pick here too for Yankees MVP, Juan Soto. Like, his performance in the CS got overlooked by Stanton and what Stanton was able to do. I think there's a way for the Dodgers pitching staff to have a easier time neutralizing Stanton. I don't think they will have that luxury with Soto, who bats second. And if you put him on base, then you're running into a traffic situation, and then you have to face Judge and Stanton after that. Soto batted .368 with a 1.373 OPS, 3 homers, 6 RBIs, and he hit the World Series clinching home run in Game 5. He also got the Yankees on the board after in the start of Game 4 after their devastating Game 3 loss. So I think the way that he's consistently been performing, A, all year, and B, in the postseason, and he's only gotten better with each game. I think if the Yankees win, he's going to be the number one reason. And then X Factor, I got to go with Nestor Cortez. We got news today that he's probably going to make the World Series roster. He has not pitched since September 18th. Flexor strain in his forearm or throwing elbow. He started throwing, I think, 2 weeks ago. Aaron Boone said that he was hopeful to maybe get him on the CS roster. And then when Ian Hamilton went down in the middle of that series, but then he realized that was a little bit of an irresponsible move to fast track him with what he was dealing with. But Nestor can be used in a multitude of ways. He can start a game and go 7. he can come in relief and give you 4. We saw him log a save at Wrigley Field this year. He went 4 1/3 no-hit innings and piggybacked Clark Schmidt's start, and they shut the Cubs down. I know that's not exactly a feat, but he was moved to the rotation from the rotation to the bullpen at 2 days notice and was able to do that. So if he's able to pitch to, I think, even 75 to 80% of his capabilities, he's going to save a lot of bullets for the high leverage bullpen arms, and he's going to be able to eat innings for the Yankees in general in most scenarios.
Yeah, no knock against Nestor, but if he's on the World Series roster, the Dodgers are going to Kodai Senga his ass, because the one thing the Dodgers have done all season long versus years past is rusty pitchers they've destroyed. If a guy has not been stretched out and has his mechanics down, this Dodgers team has had the plate discipline and they sit on the right pitch. And so I kind of worry about a guy like Cortez. If he's not in his right rhythm, the Dodgers might make him pay. So this one goes out to you, Samara Trucking, because I'm actually going to kind of cover what you were commenting. So he says, the big thing I haven't heard anyone talk about is the Dodgers don't have any lefties to throw out the Yankees. So my X factor, assuming he's healthy and is on the World Series roster, is a combination of Alex Vesia and Anthony Banda. I think getting Juan Soto out in those high leverage situations will be the difference in this World Series. A guy like Vesia can handle both sides of the plate, so I'm not worried about Vesia if he faces Aaron Judge, followed by Juan Soto, but getting Juan Soto out, I think, is going to be huge, even avoiding walks. So they can't give the free passes to Soto. I think a guy like Alex Vesia is going to have monster energy like he always does. And then hopefully it's an ending inning strikeout to Juan Soto where we get that highlight tape of him just going absolutely bananas when he Ks Juan Soto. So that's my X factor. And then for me, the World Series MVP, if the Dodgers win, I'm looking back to the regular season when the Dodgers faced the New York Yankees in the summer and the Dodgers were on the road at Yankee Stadium. It was Teoscar Hernandez. He hit 500 against the Yankees, had 3 home runs, 9 RBIs, nearly a 2,000 OPS. He was really sluggish against the Mets, but he kind of woke up in that last game against the New York Mets in Game 6. So I think that's going to kind of unlock something with Teoscar, and we're going to see what he did against the Yankees earlier in this season. So he's my pick to be the World Series MVP, calling multiple home runs, potentially a grand slam if the opportunity presents himself. I think he's going to go off, especially if guys like Ohtani and Betts could get on base.
Teoscar worried me after that series at Yankee Stadium. Not going to lie about that.
I mean, to be honest, he worried me, but also I was thankful every moment that he chose the Dodgers over the Boston Red Sox, who lowballed him. Who
Yes.
tried to sign him, and then we're like, we're good, actually. We're just going to be pretty good, not very good. So thanks. Thank you for letting that happen.
And one issue with the X factor, Kevin, Juan Soto's splits against righties and lefties are essentially the same. So I know Vesia is a badass. Like, that's a guy who, we've written about a lot in his higher leverage performances. But yeah, if he's not,
I'm aware.
Atop his game.
But
Yeah,
hopefully it's the recipe that they should have done in 2019, which was Adam Kolarek should have faced Juan Soto every time, and instead they gave him Kershaw in that decisive Game 5, and that backfired.
Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah.
And now here we are.
Got a couple questions, and then maybe we'll get to the final leg of the show. If you guys want to ignore this, because you've probably been asked this all season, so I could imagine it being pretty tiring.
Yeah, we get snail mail about this.
No,
it seems like everyone.
I think they're not interested. I mean, Soto's a great player, but they have no intention.
It's funny. So I watched the Boone press conference. I think it was either earlier today or yesterday. I can't remember when it was, but some reporter asked him, like, every time does one, when Juan Soto does something every time at the plate, a big home run or whatever, a big at bat, do you start to get worried that his price tag is going up? And I'm like, first of all, Aaron Boone doesn't care. Like, he's not the one paying Juan Soto. It's terrified. Not up to him to keep Juan Soto. That's Cashman's job in the front office. I just hate questions like that. But yeah, the reporter is right in the sense that Juan Soto keeps doing Juan Soto things in the playoffs. His price tag is going up for sure.
Well,
And what's
look,
the alternative? Like he sucks in big moments, and then you're like, oh, maybe we get him for $500 million instead of
We get a
15
hometown
million.
discount.
yeah,
And it's
15
like, oh,
million
cool.
a year. I think he might just take a 1-year
Yeah.
prove it deal if he sucks. in
Prove
October.
it.
$500 million for a guy who's not delivering in high moments. Big high leverage moments. I'd rather just pay the extra $150 million for someone who will deliver.
Right.
Yeah, there's a Bob Clappish column that I think went live Sunday morning after they clinched the World Series berth on Saturday night. That was like, Mets will outbid Yankees for Juan Soto. I think it's like, well, why did you write this today? And I think there was even something that was like, after the DS, I went to Soto's locker and I was like, you thought any more about free agency? And it's like, you could actually wait though to do that. It's actually like not an interesting column to write right now. Yeah, I think the Mets are going to throw a huge offer at Juan Soto, which even Joel Sherman wrote about today in the New York Post, which obviously I bought the New York Post Yankees World Series preview because I love to buy those for the collection. And on the front page was Donald Trump working at McDonald's. So double collector's item. Piers Morgan wrote a guest column. That's great. Can't wait to read that. But yeah, I think there's been weirdly too much ink spilled on the Mets offer being astronomical. Giancarlo Stanton mentioned in the postgame of the CS clinch, he's like, we're going to bring him back. We're going to win the World Series, and then we're going to bring back Juan Soto. I think I was surprised to see that level of confidence from the roster. Obviously, Jazz Chisholm talking out of pocket, saying pay him $700 million. That's not – I don't consider that as rock-solid commitment as Stanton weirdly being serene about it. But nothing has changed in my mind. I think they're going to try really hard. I think the Mets are also going to give him an outlandish offer. I think the Yankees making it further than the New York Mets gives a better possibility that the Yankees are going to bring him back long term. But in the end, it's become very clear that he wants to set the market for all future Juan Sotos. I don't know if there are any future Juan Sotos, but I think astronomical offer from somebody other than the Yankees, he'll take it whether they win the World Series or not. That said, I think Hal Steinbrenner understands what's at stake here. You got the whole road crowd in Cleveland chanting re-sign Soto. I think it would be very silly for him to not give him a gigantic offer.
Yeah.
We will see. We'll see. I think it could be a Met, could be a Yankee, but I definitely don't think they're not going to bid him up.
There you go, El Bori. Hope you're satisfied. So one more shout out to our other partner, Underdog Fantasy, who's been working with us throughout the MLB playoffs. So I wanted to ask you guys, since Garrett Cole has already been announced as the game one starter, I'm looking at his splits in the playoffs, and it seems like his strikeout numbers are just kind of astronomically down. Is that because of stuff kind of diminishing, or has he just been attacking hitters differently? Seems like he's been giving up a number of base hits as well. His whip's up there.
Just in this postseason, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the elbow injury in terms of longevity has a little bit of an effect there. He's obviously played through it and hasn't said anything. But when you're talking about having to level up in the postseason, dial up the velocity, hit your spots with, pristine accuracy, I think there's been a little bit left to be desired there. He's had, what was it, Adam? 2, like whatever starts and then 1 solid one.
Yeah, a good pitch to contact outing in KC. He only K'd 4, I think, but he did look like himself in that game. His location was horrendous in game 1 against the Royals. And then oddly, the start with all that traffic on the bases against the Guardians, he looked pretty good. He just eventually succumbed to that traffic in the 5th. It was the first game of the postseason that threw off a lot of these numbers because he just, I mean, even with the whip he currently has, if you like, the line score is better than the reality of how he looked in that opening game. A lot of center cut hangers that just somehow did not get deposited 500 feet.
Okay, cool. So I'm pulling up the numbers right now on Garrett Cole for Underdog Fantasy. 4.5 strikeouts is the higher. I kind of want to still lean. I think I'm still going to lean lower. I don't think Garrett Cole is going to get the strikeout numbers. So if we're still waiting for the Dodgers to announce their game 1 starter, Jake thinks it's Walker Buehler. I think it's Yoshinobu Yamamoto. If it is Yamamoto, I don't care what the strikeout number is. I'm going higher. I think he's going to absolutely deal. So for those that want to tail me, I'm going higher. Yamamoto strikeouts, lower Garrett Cole. strikeouts, and Underdog is super easy to play. It's even easier to get started. Go to their easy-to-use mobile app or UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with promo code INCLINE, and Underdog will give you a mystery special pick to use on your first pick'em entry, plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code INCLINE to claim your new customer special of a mystery player pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 or older unless you're in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older, including Colorado for some games, 21 and older, Massachusetts, Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpagambling.org. Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 HOPEline at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. So one more question, then we'll kind of get going here. Pass it off to Jake too in case he has anything else that we missed. Tian Jiang asking, question to the panel: how will the Yankees starters and the bullpen pitchers match up against the Dodgers hitters? Go Dodgers.
Go Dodgers, I guess.
Yeah. First of all, I disagree with Go Dodgers. I'm going to counter that with a Go Yankees. No, but I think you're going to see. Look, the hope is that Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon go 6 in games 1 and 2. Aaron Boone stopped short of announcing Rodon as the number 2 starter today on Talking Yanks, but he's probably going to cover that game. Then the 2 starters in the home games in New York are probably going to be Clark Schmidt and Luis Gil, both of which you're hoping for a great 4 innings. If you can get 5, you're thrilled. They're usually going to Clay Holmes in the first high leverage opportunity, whenever that is, 5th, 7th, anything but the 9th. Then you'll see Tommy Kahnle and his changeups, you guys are very familiar with. And Luke Weaver goes between an inning and 2 to close it out, typically. Mark Leiter Jr. worked through some weird traffic on the bases in the last round. Him and Tim Hill and possibly Nestor Cortez are sort of going to be that next line of defense. It's an odd crew. It's a crew that you can tire out because you might see him in games 1, 2, and 3. So if you don't get Weaver in the first 3, although you probably will because he has a 7.84 ERA against the Dodgers over the years. Yeah, so if you don't get these guys in the first 3 games, they're going to surface in game 5. Like, you're going to get your cracks at them, and it's going to be on the Yankees to find a weird alternative pathway to getting some of those huge outs. Last series, it was Hill and Cousins and Leiter Jr. They're going to keep trying to mix and match. And you want to talk about catching a cold pitcher out of rhythm. Marcus Stroman hasn't pitched in like a month, and he's going to be on this roster. So we really might see him at some point. They got through the whole CS without using him, but that would be a prime example of the Dodgers maybe getting to feast on someone who, literally has not been used since before the Yankees clinched the AL East. He pitched in that Orioles series before they finished that job. So it's been a long time.
I just want it out there on record. I cannot stand Tim Hill. There's no reason why. I just hate that guy. Ever since he was on the Padres, he's annoyed me for years. Jake, what do you got?
So obviously this series has a lot of storylines. The big headlines obviously being Dodgers, Yankees, the 2 franchises with big 3s going at it, New York versus LA. You've also got some of the smaller storylines like Alex Verdugo coming back to Dodger Stadium for the first time since being traded for Mookie Betts. So there's that storyline. But another one that I've seen kind of kicked around a little bit, and I don't know how prevalent this is going to be because Miguel Rojas is dealing with an injury and not sure if he's even going to be on the roster. And even if he is, personally, I wouldn't play him. I'd keep him on the bench. But we do have a bit of a feud there with Miguel Rojas and Jazz Chisholm. And for those of you that don't know about this, it was comments that Jazz made. I think when he was still with the Marlins or when he got or when he was on the Yankees, I can't remember. But basically, he was kind of knocking these veteran players on the Marlins for trying to basically teach a lesson to one of the younger guys for doing some sort of Juan Soto impression at the plate. The veterans brought him aside and said, hey, you can't do that kind of stuff. And it was kind of revealed that it was Miguel Rojas because he was on that team and kind of was the captain of that bad Marlins team. So do we think this is going to be a storyline at all? And if so, what can we expect?
I hope so, just for the fact that that would be fun, even if it's like fake bullshit drama. What Adam and I, or at least me, what I've come to find here is that whatever stuff was happening in Miami with Jazz, I think was kind of just nonsense and overblown. When we traded for him, I was worried because I was like, great, all this baggage is going to follow him. You know what the tabloids are going to say. You know what every opponent's going to say when he makes a mistake in a big game or he strikes out in a big game. And he got here, and there have been zero issues. And if anything, he's been like a vocal catalyst in one of the more positive ways you'd want to hope for on your team. Super confident in his abilities and the team's abilities, even though he hasn't really been coming through outside of playing good defense at the hot corner. So I don't doubt that there was some friction between him and Rojas or him and the Marlins veterans in some capacity. But I think a lot of the, Jazz Chisholm's a problem or Jazz Chisholm's a locker room issue is nothing. Because if anything, it would be further overblown in New York based on how many media members you have covering this team, national and just in the city in general. There's been no problem with him for over 3 months now. He's actually been a really good asset for the team, but I hope there's some drawing back and forth because again, we want that. Like I envied the Dodgers Padres series because there was a ton of shit talking. The players hated each other, which you don't really see anymore. It's a lot of like everybody's friends. They go into these series. It's like, oh yeah, that's my boy over there. We're both superstars. This is a great time. And it's like, no, I want you to dislike the other player in general, their family, everything that they stand for. And I want this to be a really big, heated series in some way. I know there's no recent rivalry between these two teams, but if we can open some old wounds in any capacity, I think that would be great for the game.
I'll just do a quick rapid fire on this question from IV. How great would it feel to beat Alex Verdugo after his salty comments of saying the 2020 World Series was a 60 gamer? Honestly, I don't give a fuck about beating Alex Verdugo. You want to talk about irrelevant? He's in the jerks and profar category to me. We talked about it a couple days ago. If there's one guy that will show up against the Dodgers, it's probably Alex Verdugo because he wants that revenge of being traded for Mookie Betts. But if we win the World Series, I'm not going to think about Alex Verdugo and be like, oh, this was a sweet World Series because we beat Alex Verdugo. That's not even going to cross my mind. If we win this World Series, it'll be for a million other reasons before Alex Verdugo even crosses my mind. But I appreciate the question.
To me, it's I want Alex Verdugo to be the guy that beats us or has the opportunity to beat us, because what that means is that we're neutralizing the other Yankees hitters like Soto, Judge, Stanton, all those guys. So if there's an opportunity where Alex Verdugo comes up in a big spot, that's the guy I want at the plate if I'm a Dodgers fan. But personally, I don't really care so much about him coming back home because yes, he came up through the Dodgers system and he was a part of those kind of big rookie teams. I think he was part of the 3 consecutive walk-off home runs by rookies, including Will Smith and Matt Beatty. And that was a great moment. But in terms of him being like a Dodger or like us having any allegiance to him, I don't think that that's there. So it'll be nice for him to come home. And I don't expect any sort of fanfare or like big video thing that they do for guys like Seager, Bellinger, or Justin Turner. So yeah, I don't really think too highly about it, but I agree with Kevin. He's going to be the guy that's going to fucking kill us.
He did. I mean, that was his whole MO on the Red Sox. All he did was step up against us and we hated him.
Red Sox fans warned me too, because we were looking to bench him look how much time you got, September, August, July. And they were like, it's really funny that you're going to bench him ahead of the playoffs because the playoffs are basically the only place where he performs. So like if you use him all year long and then bench him when he's actually good, you're going to regret it. And I was like, no, but haven't you watched him? All he does is roll over to second. And now here we are in the playoffs. He's actually like kind of been competent. So shout out to that Red Sox fan. They were not incorrect.
I appreciate Roberto Rosario tuning in, saying Adam and Thomas, you being humble, but the dude on the top left. My name is Kevin, first of all, but I'm super cocky. I feel like, yeah, I've talked shit a couple times, but I feel like I haven't been that arrogant. I'm not declaring this is a easy sweep for the Dodgers, or we're gonna have a cakewalk here. Like, my goodness, it's gonna be a battle. But you do you, Roberto. My name's right there. It says Kevin. Learn to read, bro. Welcome to the show. All right, so we're down to the final few minutes here. I want to make sure I give everyone here enough time to get their closing thoughts in. My quick rapid fire final outs, and then I'll probably shut up. First of all, I'm looking for the revenge of Aaron Judge versus the Dodgers bullpen gate. I think that's gonna be a sweet narrative right there. How will Aaron Judge see that bullpen gate? Will he avoid the toe? Will he run into the wall again and stub his toe? I've heard that his toe might never recover because of that incident. I've seen people go that far, so I'm gonna look out for that. And then the other,
he's not even playing right field, right? He's in center.
No,
that's true.
They said his toe will be requiring maintenance forever. I don't know what that means, but you have to imagine Aaron Judge has a really, really large big toe. So
yeah, I don't know if he and Kershaw are going to the same toe guy. But they probably should.
Get Kershaw Judge's toe guy, for crying out loud.
Yeah. And then the other thing is I'm reading right now. Aaron Judge is a huge in and out guy. So is Shohei Ohtani. We need a picture of both Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani at In-N-Out Burger together. That's better than Mookie Betts having his opposition on his podcast and talking for an hour. Just give me the photo of Shohei and Judge hanging out at an In-N-Out.
Yeah, Judge, Ohtani, Decoy, Gus Judge. If you don't know Gus Judge, he's got a little wiener dog. You guys are going to love him. I mean, yeah, I can see it right now.
Love it. All right. Kick it off to any of you guys. What do you want to close it out with on your thoughts of this World Series?
Yeah, how are you guys feeling leading up to Friday?
I mean, very, very nervous. I'm not going to lie to you. Accomplishing the AL pennant portion of this postseason was the number one thing I was focused on. I can't. The feeling of relief of making the World Series was such an abject joy that I forgot I then had to refocus on winning the World Series. That's my bad. I'm excited. I do think it'll be competitive. I think it'll be a clash of the Titans. I'm not saying like I'm happy to be here. No, as soon as first pitch happens on Friday, I will no longer be happy to be here. Like Jake and I were talking about earlier, I will be deeply unhappy for another week plus of standing and sitting and breathing and juggling like squeezing the same piece of paper. Like I'll be doing all that weird stuff. Hearing this has been eye-opening. I think the main takeaway from doing this podcast is that we should probably start Tim Hill in game 2 because you guys seem scared.
Piss off Kevin.
Bullpen game.
I'll read you guys a tweet I wrote after I blacked out in rage following game 3 of the ALCS. Like I said, this team sucks. They can never carry momentum. They can never follow through. They are soft and will lose the World Series in 5 games if they don't lose this series in 7. They won the ALCS in 5 games. I think I still maintain they lose the World Series. I don't know about 5 games now. I do. I think that they've dug deep in games 4 and 5 of the ALCS, which I did not see coming. So I think that earns them at least another game. But yeah, not to play the deflection card. I think you guys are a little bit more relentless than we are. And I think overall have a little bit more postseason mettle than we do over the last 10 years.
Look, I honestly am one of those Dodgers. It's funny listening to you guys talk about the Yankees because I feel very similarly watching the Dodgers. Watching the Dodgers in the postseason it's like I need therapy twice a week now.
Yeah, it's not enjoyable.
It's so not enjoyable. And full disclosure, I started a newish relationship about 5 months ago, and so it's still pretty fresh. And I'm a little reluctant to have her around while I'm watching these games because I go out of my mind. And for me, it's like I need to be either alone, with my friends or with my dad and my brother, where I know I can just go out of my mind and it's not going to matter. And my my significant other won't think about leaving me. So I understand what the feeling is like going into Friday, but here's the thing. I think both of these teams are going to play up to their level. They know the stakes here. They know this is the biggest stage that Major League Baseball has seen in quite some time. And these two franchises are historic, and they're going to put on a great show because they've got the most star power on each franchise across Major League Baseball. and it's going to be an exciting series. You know, would I give the Dodgers a little bit of the edge? I think so. Just the way that they're playing, the type of baseball that they're playing has me a little bit confident. But again, you know, as the old saying goes, you're only as good as your next day's starting pitcher. So you don't know what you're going to see. Past postseason, even a few days ago, is not going to matter when game one starts on Friday. So it's going to be exciting, and I'm going to be nervous and sweating through a few shirts.
All right. Well, this was an awesome preview. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you to both Adam and Tommy for coming on the show today. Make sure to check out their podcast, Yanks Go Yard, part of the FanSided network, just like us, the Incline Dodgers podcast. If you haven't hit that like button on your way out, please hit the like button. If you're listening on the audio feed, hit that subscribe button. And if you're watching the YouTube feed after the live show is concluded, whenever that is, leave us a comment. Drop your World Series MVP take. Throw a prediction out there. Make it fun. We'll reply. All right, everyone. We're peacing out now. Go Dodgers. Best of luck